This BBC crisis didn't come out of nowhere. The immediate focus is BBC Panorama's editing of Donald Trump's speech on the day of the Capitol riots in January 2021, during which he said this.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
54 minutes later, we heard this.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Just before last year's US election, Panorama edited these two clips together. It appeared to be one statement, but it wasn't. And that's an issue, regardless of Trump's actions on January the 6th. And in a memo leaked to The Telegraph, former independent editorial advisor to the BBC board, Michael Prescott, says he raised this edit and that the BBC executive doubled down on its defence of Panorama. That's not the position now. After a week of BBC silence on the issue, Chair Samir Shah has said the BBC would like to apologise for this error of judgement. For his part, Donald Trump alleges the BBC tried to step on the scales of a presidential election, which the BBC denies. But now Trump has sent a letter to the BBC threatening legal action. All of this is bad enough, but the BBC was already under pressure. In February, it broadcast a documentary about Gaza. After broadcast, it emerged the child narrator's father was a Hamas official. The BBC withdrew the programme after days of controversy. It would later apologise for serious flaws, and this was the chair.
What's been revealed goes to the heart, is a dagger to the heart of the BBC's claim to be impartial.
Next, the BBC pulled a documentary about doctors working in Gaza. Deborah Turness said to broadcast would mean risking our impartiality. She referenced narrator Ramita Navai calling Israel a rogue state in an interview. The independent producer behind the film condemned the decision, saying the BBC has managed this story as an exercise in PR. Channel 4 would broadcast the documentary. Then there was Glastonbury and a performance by Bob Vylan, which featured chants of death to the IDF. Tim Davies said as soon as he heard about it, he decided not to make the performance available on demand. But it was available for hours as part of a longer stream on BBC iPlayer. Soon after, Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy declined to say if she had confidence in Tim Davies, though she later adopted a more supportive tone. Months later, the questions on Bob Vylan kept coming.
I mean, the BBC made a very significant mistake, very significant in broadcasting that. No, I think I did the right things.
With Tim Davies preparing to lead negotiations with the government over the BBC's future funding, this was all far from ideal. And so, while the edit of Trump's speech is serious, the broader allegation is that there's something more here, something systemic, something about this leadership and the BBC as a whole. In his memo, Michael Prescott argued, on no other occasion in my professional life have I witnessed what I did at the BBC with regard to how management dealt with or failed to deal with serious recurrent problems. He pointed as one example to the BBC's coverage of trans issues. And just as last week's crisis escalated, the BBC's editorial complaints unit made a decision over this.
The aged, pregnant people, women.
Martine Croxall was found to have indicated a particular viewpoint with her expression, something the BBC doesn't allow. But others focused on a broader point. Times columnist Janice Turner wrote, Martine Croxall's eye roll spoke for a nation, adding, the public is sick of the BBC's deep-rooted, intractable bias over gender and the erasure of women. Arriving at the BBC after her resignation, Deborah Turness was asked if there is institutional bias at the BBC.
There is no institutional bias. Mistakes are made, but there's no institutional bias.
Later in an interview, the chair addressed the same issue.
The British people trust BBC News more than anything else. If there was this consistent institutional bias, do you think we'd have those figures? We wouldn't.
This takes us to the nub of it, because as the mistakes and controversies have kept coming, there's been passionate disagreement inside and outside the BBC on why that was, and if the BBC's responses were sufficient. The edit of Trump's speech hastened this moment, but the departures of Tim Davies and Deborah Turness are about much more than that.